Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome to the second video of Saturday, and this one is going to be focused on Serpent and Destroyer. These two champions are coming to the game next week, but of course pre-release bundles I think are mid-month for first of all Serpent first, then it's Destroyer. I think that's the way around, whatever it is. I don't know, at the end of the day you want to make decisions about these two champions, and of course what we're going to do in this video is look at these. It's basically like look at the abilities, look at the champions in action, and stuff that we learned from the live stream that Kabam did. So like on screen right now is the kind of footage of Serpent, the animations, and of course this champion does look amazing. Same thing with Destroyer, they both look really amazing. The art team did a fantastic job with them, but of course they've got very different abilities. One is a mystic, one is a cosmic, and let's just go into picking up from the live stream Kabam did, like what Karate Mike did with the abilities and kind of talking through some stuff and applications to places in game. I think they're going to be very effective, but also kind of like have a look at the animations as well as kind of like what they're basically going to do. If not, are they going to be different to some of the other champions out there? So let's start off with Serpent. Serpent is a quintessential cosmic champion that's got persistency, so he's going to ramp up as the fights go on. There's lots of different and kind of various decent information that was given in the live stream, like the following, which is if you push the champion to the wall and go past your SP1, so you're sort of close to your SP2, and try and delay it before throwing the SP2, it will make you go unblockable, and you'll be able to go through the block. Or as you know, unblockable allows you to kind of go through anything because it's unblockable, but you'll be able to go through it and put a bigger amount of burst damage in. The whole thing about persistency with the champion is that the more fights he kind of goes through, I think it's the more potent that fury buff the champion has. So I'm not saying it's exactly like any other champion because there's some subtle differences, but at least to say if we're looking at an attack ramp up, there are definitely champions out there that kind of like have similar. So because at the point of recording this video we don't know how many persistent charges we have, I definitely know there's 3, because if you go and see the video which I've got on loop at the moment, it will showcase at least 3 at this point in time. Will it be more than a max of 3? I don't know. It just depends on the extent of damage the champion does. So on the footage that I've got repeating at the moment, it will see some meaty amounts of damage. Will this be something that from an applicable standpoint you're seeing in Necropolis? It might be, to be honest. Like, I definitely see a worth of a champion that's able to do an extensive amount of damage, and especially as a 7-star, in some more meatier pieces of content. Whether or not you're like, and the thing is, this could be a fantastic option for incursions. I'm seeing all the buffs. I'm seeing the Fury buff as a definite thing. There is another buff that's there at the moment. There are a few things like the Pierce. The Pierce is a standard buff that comes with the champion. It's a passive. The same way that there's a Fury passive at one particular point. But there is things like a power gain buff, and there is another buff there. So by having at least 3 buffs on, it can be handy for different pieces of content. If there's a particular piece of content that says, hey, you need 3 buffs, like buffed up. Remember buffed up, that old node that Kabam used to put out quite a bit? Was kind of like that. If you've got that, then that can be beneficial. The same way, I think it's it's gonna bug me now. There's a Cavalier, not Cavalier, Throne Breaker node, which is very much applicable to that, but I can't remember what it was. And what you do is you trigger aptitude from it. Oh, it's going to bug me, but there's a few things that are kind of like similar in, again, that particular way. But at least you can like spawn a buff early. This means that there's advantage to use a buff cornucopia in incursions, but that's just not just all about incursions. The champion does have further applications because the champion has that specific type of buff, which I'm just trying to like have a look at footage whilst I'm recording this video. What's going to pop up? The True Focus. That's it, True Focus. So True Focus is one of these buffs similar to True Accuracy. Not similar, but what I'm saying is like there's a counter to miss and evade. I always thought it was like, no, it's not True Sense. It's the one where it dips it, like true, obviously True Strike, True Accuracy, True Sense. They all have different types of interaction-based things. I think True Sense is auto block and miss, and then there's True Accuracy, which is evade and auto block. So there's some like crossover. So True Focus, which I believe and what it seems to be on screen as a buff, is going to be advantageous to counter miss champions and evade champions. If there's been some techs that evade, which is very... I'm trying to think of an evading tech. Either way, this champion can be used against a plethora of champions. Looking for an option against Shuri, this is your guy. Looking for an answer against Nightcrawler, this is your guy. I'm not saying 100% because I've got the champion to test out, but it's interesting, isn't it, to see this overlap? And I'm very much looking forward to kind of like experimenting and playing around with the champion. The build looks fun, especially taking on tech champions that have armor buffs. The persistent damage, as I said, intrigues me, and SP3's rotation to do like huge levels of crit numbers can be very fun. But I think the most fun about this is changing the playstyle. For me, this is kind of like a quintessential brawler type champion, playing up against the wall, being aggressive, being on the front foot, which could be very, very fun. Especially being unblockable means you can really ramp up damage and keep the aggression on, which I think is a fundamental fun thing about MCOC. But I'm looking forward to playing about the champion, and it looks like the meaty amount of numbers that can be done is just going to be very, very rewarding and just easy to use champion. Although I do think Destroyer might be more easier to use. But let's go over and have a look at Destroyer in a bit more light and kind of look at some fun applications of things. So turning our attention over to Destroyer, this is one that just looks very easy to use and rotate around. I think it's probably a lot easier than Serpent, but that's because, like, in a nutshell with this champion, you're literally building your charges. Like, as soon as you get to 100 of these particular destruction charges, you're going to gain a buff. I think it's like a power gain buff. And once you do that, just do an SP3, then an SP2, and another. And you can find yourself, like, doing this constant kind of SP3, SP2, obviously SP3 once you've got the charges. So SP3, SP2, SP2, boom. The protection side of things that the champion gets can mean that it might be a bit more sturdier than you might think. I'm not sure if you're like, okay, well, let's just take my Mystic, my Science champions and just ramp into this guy, and that's going to solve the problem. A lot of times that's not really the case. And because the champion, you don't want to take any mutant champions against it. I wouldn't know anybody that would want to take mutant cosmic champions against Destroyer. It just would feel weird. And I'm sure there's probably something out there that's going to make him a little bit more annoying on a defensive perspective, but that's all down to node interactions and how you see that. But from a kind of like an offensive manner, I like the way it kind of operates. Not too dissimilar from Juggernaut. Not 100%, because the thing I love about Juggernaut, I would like versus this champion, is being able to stagger. Stagger is so important, because you want to be able to suppress those buffs. Now, granted, there are some champions that don't really, you can't really suppress certain champions because they're, immune to certain things. But what I'm saying is having that extra kind of like element of utility for it. Again, not saying Destroyer doesn't. It's just it seems to me like this is a very aggressive Mystic. The same way with the Serpent being very aggressive and cosmic. But that comes with the territory with cosmic champions. They're normally very kind of aggressive and have lots of buffs, so therefore do lots of damage. Destroyer seems to have that same thing. Being able to build things like Fury passives, which is fantastic. This champion can be used in a lot more circumstances and situations, apart from dexterity being a buff. The rest are passives, which is kind of like a fantastic element to the champion. And the damage side of things is another kind of bonus that this champion has, as well as a Mystic. Not a lot of Mystics I know of, ramp up the extent of damage that we've seen. So from ease of use and being able to be a counter to the likes of, well, Hulkling, Gallon, and some of the champions that are annoying cosmics, it definitely means that this might be something you want to put in your Battlegrounds deck. You're kind of like, okay, I'd like to have an option against Hulkling. Cool. I'm going to use Destroyer for this one, and it might work relatively well. In a nutshell, it does deal with buffs, I would say, but it deals with it in a different way. That different way being it just kind of like over damages and kind of like interacts. I don't know if the Fury passives, I can't remember if it was kind of a case they kind of build. I'll have to have a look. I'm looking up the footage back up if you want to have a look at it right now as to like how it works in the situation on the ramp up. I don't know if it's kind of like very kind of like ease to kind of like build up when Yeah, I'm not quite sure with it. Like, it does seem the Fury passive is just very much kind of, boost as soon as do you reach a certain charge or whatnot. But I think that's probably the name of the game. Keep those Fury buffs, Fury passives on as much as possible. Ramp them, rotate them, and trying to get that damage in. That degen damage is not too bad, but I would say because it's a 7-star, it does present that does more damage than it does. So the main kind of like aspects of damage itself are going to come from those special attacks that burst damage. So that's going to be one of the main things right there. That's, hinder is the other one, and destroying buffs, but it's destroying the indestructible buff right there. It's that burst damage, yeah. It looks like that very much the burst damage, and you need to have those Fury passives on in order to interact as effectively as possible. In any case, that has been the video. My thoughts on both these champions. Again, options that could be very well received for Necropolis. More so for Serpent than Destroyer, but you never know what is going to interest players, and as well taking the likes of Destroyer into some content, whether it's story content, whether it's Paragon Gauntlet, and as well, not quite sure on it being an option for certain bits of content, but could be an annoying defender. So yeah, any case, thanks for watching this video. What's your thoughts? Put it in the comment section down below. Check out some other content located on screen, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a lovely day, and goodbye for now.